Hi, I'm Zach with Volagi. While many of you undoubtedly already have experience with disc brakes, we're hoping this video will help you get the most out of your Avid BB7s, which come stock on the Volagi Liscio. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our initial setup video with a couple of important tips on how to properly prepare your Liscio for adjustment. To adjust the BB7, first thing you want to do is make sure the cable is not attached to the torque arm. Step 1, loosen the cable. Make sure that the cable is completely loose. Next step is to loosen the CPS bolts. Step 2, loosen the CPS bolts. The caliper is now loose. The next step is centering the caliper. To do so, you're basically going to use the pads and push them in as far as they go, squeezing the rotor, therefore centering the caliper around the rotor. Thanks to the easy adjustment of the BB7, this is very easy to do. This is where the T25 comes in. Adjusting of the inboard pad can typically be done by hand. Generally though, only if the wheel is out of the frame. When the wheel's in, T25 torques makes it quite a bit easier. Step 3. Dial out the pads. Give the actuation lever a quick pull just to make sure the pads are seated. When centering the caliper on the rotor, it's important to note that Avid specifies that the gap between the two sides should be 2/3 to the inboard pad and 1/3 to the outboard pad. For the purpose of centering the caliper, turn each adjuster until they stop. Dial the pads in completely. Trying to get it so that there's 2/3 gap. When you've done it correctly, both sides should be extremely tight and the wheel shouldn't go anywhere. With the brake cable still loose, now it's time to tighten the CPS bolts. Caliper is tight. Slight forward pressure on the caliper. Get to the point where it's just snug. Next, pull. Switch back and forth. Quarter turns until tight. An important side note, due to the rough surface of the CPS washers from time to time, tightening one bolt at a time as tight as you can go can actually grab those washers and twist the caliper, causing your brake adjustment to be off. That's why it's best to go in small turns, one bolt to another. Once both of the CPS bolts are tight, go ahead and back off each pad adjuster about 3 clicks or until the brake stops rubbing. Dial the pads out, it stops making noise. Squeeze the lever arm just to make sure that the pads are seated. Spin, no noise. Once you've done that, the wheel should spin freely with no noise. Once you've got the pads set and the rotor is spinning freely without any noise, it's time to connect the brake cable. To do so, first start by making sure the housing is fully seated along the entire system. When attaching the cable to the brake, it's important to make sure that you pull down on the cable to make sure that it's not binding up in the housing as you tighten down the anchor bolt. Now, rather than simply tightening down the anchor bolt with the lever in its lowest position, something that I've noticed that has a very positive effect on how the brake feels at the lever is by lifting that torque arm ever so slightly off that lower stop. In doing so, and tightening down the anchor bolt, it keeps that lever off that bottom stop and eliminates the chance of any wind-up as you grab the brake. Connect the brake. Stop the wheel there. Lift the lever arm slightly off that lower stop. Make sure you're pulling the cable. Back it down. Give it a squeeze. Feels great. No rub. If you've done everything correctly, the wheel should still spin freely without any noise, and you should have a very positive feel at the lever. So there you have it. The brake's all set up, it's adjusted, feels great, spins freely, no noise, but you're not done yet. An important step of any new disc brake installation and adjustment is the break-in period. To properly break in a disc brake, you want to find a fairly large area that's free of traffic. Start by riding at 10 to 12 miles an hour and using one brake only. Slow yourself down, but do not come to a complete stop. Once you've slowed yourself down, return to speed, and repeat the process. Continuing this quite a few times, eventually you'll notice a drastic increase in braking performance. At that point, the brake is fairly broken in. Repeat the process with the remaining brake, and you're done.